Still started.
Now it's live. No, we've not forgotten to start the live feed, and no, Land Monkey's not in charge. But thanks for your suggestions.
We have had some technical issues with the Googles.
The Googles and us are not playing nicely together right now. So we're going to try to do a podcast anyway, and how humorous could that be?
Yeah, exactly. Worst case scenario is you have me because I've got the recorder.
That's right.
Okay, so
okay,
let's go live. Let's actually start recording while this is
start recording, and let's do this crazy thing before it decides to quit working on us again.
And here we go. Well, here we are. It's Thursday night, the bad cop at wit's end. So that means we must say, welcome to Caching in the Northwest, the only podcast dedicated to geocaching in the great Pacific Northwest. We'll talk about caches and cachers unique to this little corner of the country. So, ready your goggles and shout contact as you spin the propeller. It's time to go find caching in the Northwest.
Wow, there's a aviation theme you've got going there. Could it be tonight we're going to share with our listeners your experiences at the Flight Cache Design Challenge at the Museum of Flight event? Could be, maybe.
I'm not letting any secrets out of the bag here.
Okay. Well, some say that primates have intricate family structures, and others say that family must come first. So that said, Land Monkey has flown the coop and will not be with us tonight.
Nice one.
Yeah, we're sad. Tear. Okay, we're on. Moving on. We missed him. We're done missing him. We're moving on now. This is like old times, just you and me.
Just you and me. However, in the old times, we were in one single room.
We were.
And there was more laughing and getting off track and talking about Australia back then. Yeah,
derailing. And it wasn't planes, it was trains because we derailed a lot. Yeah. And we didn't have live Q&A and listeners, so this is awesome.
Yeah, it's very different. However, I think it's better. Listeners, we want to remind you that we brought back the Caching NW tradition of playing audio from you, our amazing listeners, sharing your favorite cache and caching locations. Record it from the cache itself. Record it from a museum serving a microbrew. We don't mind where, but we want to hear from you and those great caches you're out there finding. Just record that audio, email it to us at feedback@cachingnw.com, or call in to 253-693-TFTC and leave a message there. We're looking for about 15 seconds of audio. That's enough time to say your geocaching name, the GC code, the name of the cache, and why exactly you liked it. And if we play it on an episode, you could win some great swag.
Cool. Well, can we play one on the on this episode? Do we have one?
Well, I had one already, and then all the stuff happened, and I don't have.
Okay. So we could leave our listeners in sweet anticipation of next week.
You know what?
All works right. What's that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, of course, everybody mentions Doctor Who. I mean, who doesn't love the Doctor Who cache?
It is a pretty incredible cache.
Pretty incredible cache. I have been to caches at the Washington Lookout Point. I'm slaughtering the name of it because I'm pulling this up out of my head. Washington Bypass Overlook.
Ah.
The cache there, simple cache hid behind a rock. It's no big deal. It's the view you get when you're there, and that's absolutely incredible. So it's one of my favorites right there.
Sadly, some of my favorites are now archived, but we've covered those before.
That's true. So, you know what we should do?
What should we do?
We should talk about...
I love it when you tell me what we should do.
We should talk about things that are new and news-worthy.
Oh. Well, let's do that.
Okay.
Should we talk about something from the Squim Gazette?
I love saying the word squim.
It
Because
is, and
look
it's
at
great
it,
because it's
it should be
yeah,
Segua, but it's not.
yeah, it's not, and it's not Sequim. Those are
No,
not sequins. It's Squim,
squim.
located in the Great Pacific Northwest, but in the rain shadow of the Olympic rainforest, and hardly gets any rain at all. Believe it or not.
Yes, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, you
Now,
know. Go ahead.
no, please.
You said now. Should I
Okay.
go now? Uh, the North Olympic Library System up in Squim, or at least was featured in the Squim Gazette, they're introducing 3 geocaching kits available for checkout. How is that? How cool is that?
I love
I
this.
found a cache in a library one time, but I couldn't check it out. If you use your GPS and your wits, I'm fond of my wits. Geocaching brings together a love of the outdoors and modern tools of navigation. The Squim Gazette goes on to read, geocaches may be found everywhere, and the basics of the game are simple. So are the participants. No. Participants select a cache from a website. After a cache is selected, the coordinates to the location are entered or downloaded onto a GPS device. It's then up to the players to use their navigational and detective skills to seek out the hidden vessels. Caches may contain a simple logbook for those who found it, or perhaps a small treasure to share. Participants traditionally leave an item to exchange. So you knew all that because you guys are all cachers. But the kit that you check out from the library contains a Garmin eTrex 10 GPSR, a book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Geocaching, and a simple quick start guide, if the Idiot's Guide wasn't quick start enough. Patrons may borrow each kit for up to 3 weeks, so they ought to be able to get at least one cache in that time.
Mm-hmm.
So to reserve a kit, call or visit any NorthWest, North Olympic Library System branch library. How cool.
Really cool. I had to include that. It's got a kit for you, the Complete Idiot's Guide, which I could have written because I am a complete idiot.
Well, you're more like the Complete Bushwhacker's Guide.
Oh, yeah. Just follow the arrow. You don't care. I don't care what you go through. I'm following the arrow.
But it's 50 feet that direction right there.
How far is 50 feet? Come on. We're almost there.
Depends how many
really
blackberry bushes are between you and 50 feet.
One is enough. Trust me.
Yeah.
So you can go there. You can borrow the GPSR, read up on geocaching. You got 3 weeks. I thought that was very generous.
That's very generous. Yeah. It usually takes me that long just to learn how to use a GPSR. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know what we need here is we need Land Monkey to keep us on track.
Yeah, we do. We do. We're missing.
But that's not going to happen.
There's no Land.
That's not going to happen. No. And they're almost and we've lost the bad cop. So I'm going to keep rambling here as if the bad cop was here. I don't honestly know if this is going out live to the interwebs or if it's just me talking to myself in my podcast studio. But I'm going to keep rambling because the evil Google technical glitches have struck the Bad Cops podcast studio once again. It's about the 3rd time it's happened just tonight. But I'll tell you, faithful 3 listeners out there, that my week was a very busy week. My little girl graduated from university this past Sunday. I now have a theater major in the family with a theater degree and an art degree. She got 2 majors, 2 degrees. So it was a busy, busy week. I drove 300 plus miles over to the university, did all of the pomp and circumstance and ceremonies and traditional 3,000 photos of her and all her graduated friends, and helped her pack up her apartment into the trailer and drive it back home. So we've been busy here, but sadly we've not been busy geocaching. The bad cop did do some geocaching while I was over at the graduation ceremonies, and hopefully he'll be able to come back and join us tonight, play some of that interview and that footage from the Museum of Flight Cache. It was really cool. I've heard some of the interviews already, and it's an event I wish I could have attended. Sadly, as is Land Monkey's absence tonight, family must come first, and I wasn't able to be there. And I'm seeing the bad cops the logo picture come back up in the podcast hangout here. So hopefully we'll have audio from him soon, and we'll see if he can come back and join us. Nope, it just went away again. And I've got a text message just coming in. This just in, breaking news in the hangout world. Bad Cop says, working on it. That was a direct quote. So I know that he was hoping to interview Richard Garriott, saying no at the event. I don't know if that happened or not. Like I said, I did hear quite a bit of footage of interviews with different people that he interviewed, different guests, different cashers, but I don't know if I heard Richard Garriott saying no. So you'll just have to wait in suspense right along with me. Anybody else have anything to share in the Q&A? Look at that. I've got some Q&A here. There's a link to the Complete Idiot's Guide to Geocaching. It's a paperback book. I see a congrats to my daughter, and I thank you very much for that. And it takes me that long to spell GPSR. Is one of the comments there. So, yeah, GeoGearheads did have this problem earlier. I see that comment, and you're right. The common thread does seem to be the bad cop. So, I'm gonna say that maybe he is the problem child. I don't know. The library thing is on the news for us. We did beat you to it, but that's okay. You'll reach a different audience. It'll be great. So, and thanks for contributing that 50 feet for those of you north of the border or in the UK is 15 meters. And whether it's 50 feet or 15 meters, the blackberries hurt just as much, whether it's metric, imperial, foreign, domestic, English, French, Spanish, or German. The blackberries just plain hurt. Now, based solely on the popularity of geocaching in Germany, I'm going to have to go out on a limb and say that perhaps they don't have many blackberries there. I don't know. And if they do they measure them in bushels or in metric or in imperial? I have no idea. If somebody would like to fund a field trip for the Caching in the Northwest podcast hosts to travel Europe and do the geocaching research purely for you listeners, we would be very happy to take care of that for you. The Bad Cop did contribute at the Flight Cache event that Space Beer was not a hit, branching off on the microbrews mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Now, we were unable to bring you a favorite cache from a listener on the podcast earlier tonight, but I know that we're going to work these bugs out, if not tonight, then in the future very soon. And we will have to bring those to you another time. If you'd like to contribute your own, give us a call, 253-693-TFTC. Leave us a comment. It's a 24-hour voicemail, so you don't even have to worry about waking the bad cop up because it'll go to voicemail. Give him a call. Call us from your cell phone on the way to a cache. Call us from the highway as long as you're not driving. Don't use that cell phone while you're driving. Tell us about the grand adventure that you're about to participate in and how the event goes. Let's go back to the Q&A and see what else is going on in there. Lots of hard work to get a degree. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. It's I'm very, very proud of her. She did a great job. Madcap killed the Googles. Could be. So thanks for the feedback that you see me live. I feel like I'm a little bit like I'm talking to myself, which, you know, I have carried on many a lengthy conversation with myself. It's a little bit scary just how good I am at it, but I'm doing it for you guys today. The Bad Cop has tried to pop in 3 or 4 times. I've seen him pop up in the Hangout and then immediately get crushed right back out. The Googles are ganging up on him tonight and really taking their toll. I'm hopeful that if I ramble long enough, he'll be able to join us, bring you some of this amazing interview footage from the Flight Cache event. Nope, he just popped out again. And yeah, you're going to be amazed if and when you ever hear this footage. Next week, we know that things are going to be worked out, and we're going to be talking about geocaching.com's quest prep, finding a T5 cache. Now, we've already covered that the Bad Cop likes to go bushwhacking even when it's not necessary, and he can turn a T1 cache into a T5 cache even though it doesn't reflect in the finds. It's a lot of fun to go caching with him because you can just kind of point right over there. I think that's where it is, and he'll go launch himself into the blackberries and brambles and take one for the team. So it's great. And then I can walk around the trail that he sees from the other side, calmly walk up and sign the logbook. June 18th is going to be our 100th episode, Lord willing, that all these here Google Hangout issues get worked out, resolved, and otherwise corrected. And June 25th, we may or may not be able to bring you live from the 2015 Mount Vernon Parks GeoCoin Challenge and interview with Dora Moore about the Metro Vancouver Summer Winter Games 2015. Hey, I'm seeing the bad cop may be back in the podcast now. I have rambled nonstop, Mr. Cop, and hopefully it'll all work out and you'll be able to bring us some of these awesome interviews that I have been telling everybody that they're just really going to want to hear.
Well, of course they want to hear them, and we may as well jump right in because there's no reason to wait any longer. I mean, apparently you've told them everything they need to know. And
some things you probably didn't want me to tell them, but I did anyway.
You didn't tell them the time I lost my glasses, did you?
Oh, no, not that time.
Okay, good. Let's jump right into the intro where we learn that about Richard Garriott, better known as Lord British in the geocaching community. I'm not going to do more intro because I don't think we need to.
You know, I have been very lucky to participate in a lot of really amazing things. The emergence of the gaming industry, the emergence of the civilian space industry, and by the way, geocaching as well, which I was introduced within a year of the founding Groundspeak. Somebody had built a geocache next to my house, and I thought it was very odd that people had made this overlook on my house. But I then immediately embraced it as going like, live action role playing and exploration at its best. I need to be a geocacher. And so what I want to talk to you about today, it covers a lot of subjects. So pardon the meander, but it's sort of the intersection of gaming and space and exploration of the reality that we live in general and geocaching. So bear with the roller coaster here today. And what I thought interesting about geocaching is that, there are not only 6 million plus geocaches out there, or geocachers participating, but everyone participates for their own reason. And so, the more geocachers I meet, the more I realize how diverse that community is and what kind of fun they get out of it. I'm much more of even a creator than a cacher, just because to me it's like being a game designer. So you'll see that bias in my presentation. But 50 some odd years ago, when I think of exploration, the thing that inspired my father was Sputnik. And, for Americans at least, this was kind of a wake-up moment, inspired a lot of people to sit up and take notice and realize that exploration could go beyond the Earth into space. And that really is specifically what inspired my dad. It was my dad had been a professor at Stanford and had a radio laboratory for radio signals. And so listened to Sputnik himself, and that inspired him to apply to NASA. He became an astronaut. He flew twice on Skylab and on the space shuttle. And let's see if my clicker's working. There we go. And during the first decade of human space exploration that followed, we did a lot. We went from Sputnik to flying people into space to landing on the moon. And that era this is when I was quite young, that sort of caused a STEM boom. People were very interested in science and technology back in the day. And we also all sort of believed, I grew up believing, and I expect many people in the room grew up believing that this was our future. This Stanley Kubrick vision of the future was the future that was right around the corner and just, a couple decades away in 2001, that is now almost a couple decades behind us. And, and hey, what happened? Why didn't this kind of vision of the future manifest? And to me, the reason is because of this equation up here, this kind of fact, this series of facts. Going into space is expensive and it's dangerous. And things that are both expensive and dangerous are therefore fairly uncommon to do. And in fact, if you look at that, we're just emerging out of a time when we were building the space station. It cost us $100 billion to build it. We spend $2 billion a year to keep it in orbit. It costs us $100 million or so in the space shuttle era to put a person on there. And so if you think about those economics, it's pretty hard to justify sending very many people up when most people don't even know what value is coming back. And so with that equation, there's sort of this erosion of public support over some decades, I would actually say, and space actually got into kind of a bad place. I mean, it was the enthusiasm for space exploration was somewhat waning. But even during that, a lot of folks that were my age that had been inspired to go off and build high-tech companies had seen some level of success and all began to turn back to space and go like, I want to go back and participate in that thing that excited me so much. And so just like myself, I'd argue that, Jeff Bezos and Blue, he's one of these similar to my age and also went off and did a high-tech thing, and now I'm back doing space. Elon Musk, did PayPal and all these other kind of high-tech things, and Tesla motor cars, he's doing space. And so I think that kind of circling back is an interesting reality of this era. And for me, I grew up with a father who was an astronaut. All my neighbors were astronauts, and so I kind of grew up just believing space was the obvious destiny for all of us. You didn't have to decide to become an astronaut. It just was, we were all going to go, right?
So, isn't that amazing when you think about it?
It is.
Did you catch those numbers? It was $100 billion to build the ISS. $2 billion a year to maintain it.
Yeah.
$100 million just to get somebody up there.
That's why they carpool.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right.
Now, maybe Red Bull can take some people up there with a balloon.
Red Bull was that embarrassing moment when you realize a soft drink company has a better space program than your nation.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I saw the Red Bull capsule that Felix Baumgartner jumped out of at the Udvar Hazy Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Pretty cool.
That is cool. Now, since we're running a little long, I'm going to move right on. Lord British is also known for his geocache in Texas, and he's going to talk about that here and his inspiration for it.
Cool.
But I built a succession of computer game companies, and and in general, what I do is fantasy role-playing games, and so you might have therefore imagined that the geocaches that I built immediately became live-action role-playing games. So if you come down to Austin, Texas, and you go to the Necropolis of Britannia Manor geocache, it will start with this image in the upper left, which is a graveyard that you must visit, where you find clues that take you to a grave of a man named Orville M. Arbuckle, who died on July 4th, 1961, the day that I was born. And you get information off that grave, and it takes you through parks all around the city of Austin, ultimately onto my property in the city of Austin, where I built this solar-paneled, somewhat not exactly animatronic, but some sound and lights and things if you come at night that lead you through another graveyard. If you get information off these through the journey and through these graves, you're led up to this tower that you see in the bottom corner. And in that tower, if you've got the right codes, you can open the door, and there's some more spooky stuff on the interior, as well as a machine to crush coins like the ones I have here at the museum to make yourself a little memento of your visit. And all the way along, I've got wildlife cameras taking pictures of you, so smile. And all those pictures go up on the cache's Facebook page. So that's just a taste of the kind of fun that my style of geocache creation.
Isn't that cool?
Oh man, I'm partial to caching in the Northwest, but we ain't got nothing like that.
No,
I'm gonna have to take a trip to Texas to go see that.
Well, actually, I am in a couple of weeks, and I'm purposely making a stop in Austin to go do that cache. It's several hours.
How can you not?
Away, but it's several hours out of my way. It's not a 3-day trip to get there. So,
but it's worth it. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
So. I think so. One of so we know Lord British from this. We know Lord British from a couple of other caches that he's done. And you know what? I am going to let him talk about the next one coming up.
Cool.
We also built a company called Deep Ocean Expeditions that charters the Mir submersibles. You may remember from the movie Titanic. Those are the submarines that filmed that movie. In fact, James Cameron chartered those submersibles through our company, Deep Ocean Expeditions, to film that movie. And so it was also a chance for me to go down and see the Titanic, which is another kind of fun thing I've got to do through this same journey. But while we were going down and looking at deep targets, this was sort of the first extreme cache that I made. This one is down at a set of hydrothermal vents at about 2,300 meters below the surface of the water off the coast of Portugal. And what's interesting about these vents is you can see the little pink string which connects to the travel bug that I set down there on the seafloor. And this one, the vents are still visited. There's scientists who go down there with some regularity, so I know that cache is still present and the travel bug is still present. But no geocacher has gone back there. And so as a cache, that is still officially unvisited. So there's a first to find that's still available.
On it.
I don't know if you caught it right at the very end. Somebody said on it.
On it. That's what I heard, but I couldn't understand it. Yeah, that travel bug isn't going to travel anytime soon. I'm just going to go out on a limb and predict that.
You look at it and you go, well, it's been down there for how many years and never found. It's interesting that scientists are down there and they see it, so they know it's still there. It's being monitored, though it's never been found.
And we need to get some scientists into geocaching. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. The on it you heard was our good friend of the show, Sprouter.
Ah.
And Sprouter was the reason we had the...
There you go.
Yeah. So we've been longer than 12 minutes into the show. He's already fallen asleep and is no longer listening to us. So.
Yeah. So the ding was in vain, but that's okay.
Yeah. Now, so we know he has the deepest geocache, but he also owns another geocache that has another honor. Let's jump into that.
The more extreme cache that I've made is actually visited by geocachers much more regularly. It's actually shocking how much this one contrarily is visited. So finally, we thought all these exploration travel was really put together to reach this event, which finally in October of 2008, I got the chance to become the 6th private citizen and the first second-generation astronaut, the 483rd, I think, person to leave the Earth. My father, of course, was a big part of that journey with me. He helped me plan it out and helped me board the vessel, ran my mission control team, and that's him meeting me literally as I was dragged out of the spaceship upon returning to the Earth. And Doug, particularly thank you or actually, Eric, I think it was you that used the term private astronaut too. I'm big on the term private astronaut versus space tourist. I make this argument because even though I paid my own way, as most private pilots pay their own way on their own planes, this is the list of science and commercial work that I did, which I think adds up to as heavy workload as any other government astronaut. I just did it privately, and so that's at least the case study I'll make it and things like that. And I could go after the discussion, if you want to talk about more about the things in space, including the science and commercial applications and stuff, I would be very happy to go into more of this detail. But I did protein crystallization. I did work with the Nature Conservancy to study change from in the one generation between my father's time and my time in space. I helped develop software for Earth observations from space that astronauts have a hard time taking pictures of things because the world's scrolling by so fast, you don't know exactly what you're over that you might be wanting to take a picture of. In fact, usually they sit at the window with a printout, and you don't know which way it's oriented, and it doesn't look very much like what you're going to see out the window. And so they did have a piece of software up there, but it wasn't near the window, and it also wasn't very visually accurate. And so I helped build this piece of software, which you'd set right next to the window, and it looked like Google Earth scrolling right as the Earth is scrolling, and it helps you take photographs out the window. And in fact, the professional astronauts kicked me out and used my software. And actually it's now become the standard software that is used on the space station because of how much better it is than the original. So anyway, I would argue that I made some pretty good contributions, but amongst the best contributions is the geocache. And what was funny about putting this geocache up is I'm going like, by the way, things in space are really carefully restricted. You're really not supposed to muck with the stuff that's up there on the space station, especially if you're not one of their employees. And so I sort of did this secretly. I didn't announce to them that I was going to be leaving this stuff up there on the space station. So this is right in the main service module of the Russian segment. There's a locker number 218. I actually went locker to locker to locker to locker to find one that would be suitable. It didn't have equipment that behind it that would need to be accessed for maintenance or other purposes, so that I could keep a sheet of paper for a log sort of on the back side of the opening of this panel to be the official, so that this locker was the cache itself. And I tagged it with my this travel bug hanging right here on the outside of locker 218. And I assumed that, like the undersea cache, this was never going to be visited. But shockingly, that travel bug is actually already now returned to the Earth. It normally has been living over at geocaching headquarters, but today it's over in the Simone part of the space wing of the museum here, so please go visit it. But the other thing that I found shocking is that almost every crew now, or at least once a year, there's a crew member who is a geocacher who wants to participate in geocaching. And so this turns out to be a fairly popular spot. And there's one more little story I think you'll enjoy about it too, which is when I first registered this on the geocaching site, a number of geocachers complained about it. And their complaint was based upon the fact that geocaches are supposed to be stationary. You're not supposed to put a geocache on, say, a moving ship. And here a spaceship had a geocache on board. So Jeremy and his group had to get together and noodle on whether this was a legal geocache. And ultimately, they concluded yes, based upon the fact that it is in orbit. And just like the Earth is in orbit around the sun and the moon orbits the Earth, the station is orbiting the Earth as well. And so that at least now opens the door for caches on the moon or Mars or other places that are also in orbit.
Well, there you have it. Anything in orbit now is fair game.
Yeah. I think it might be hard to get GPS reception on Mars or even the moon, but you never know.
Or even the space station.
Yeah.
I believe
those space stations, those astronauts are cool.
Satellite, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those astronauts are cool. Getting into geocaching. I know that they do a lot of public events and talk on ham radios and do all kind of things outside of the normal astronaut day-to-day duties. It's just, them astronauts, they'd be cool people.
They are.
And I suppose the cosmonauts, we could lump them in as well.
Well, we have to be nice to the cosmonauts because that's the way we're getting up to the space station.
Yeah. Yeah, they give us, we can hitch a ride with them up there because we've decommissioned all of our own craft.
Richard Garriott went on to talk about, how space travel has a decreasing price tag.
And he's gone. So space travel has a decreasing price tag, and this podcast has a decreasing amount of the bad cop. So now you're stuck with me. Of all the nights for Land Monkey to decide to not join the podcast, and I can't blame him at all. He's spending time with his family, and I applaud that. Family time is important. I noticed in the chat room that they asked, can the bad cop contribute to the podcast tonight by Morse code? Which makes me wonder if you were standing in our office this morning listening as the bad cop and I discussed Morse code. Believe it or not, I would really love to learn Morse code, and we were researching and looking at websites and software tools to do that exact thing. But we haven't done it yet, so I'm going to say that no, he can't contribute by Morse code on this episode. However, he just may contribute by Morse code. He's pretty bright, and he can pick it up. Let me scroll through there. I see that somebody also has a strange craving to play Ultima 4 on an 8-bit Apple II. And that sounds like a lot of fun. I had a lot of good times on an Apple II, but I spent a whole lot more time on a Commodore 64, 38911 bytes free. It's amazing what you can do with 64K of system RAM. 64K ought to be enough for anybody. And let's see. Let me look down through the Q&A here. I'm always talking to myself when I'm looking for a cache in the woods. Yes, I talk to myself a lot, whether caching, podcasting, or any other time. Oh, I see somebody comments on that we must watch Lord British's explanation of how to use the toilet in space. And based on what I've heard Lord British present, I'm sure that's an entertaining explanation, and I'm going to have to go look that up, just so long as I don't have to actually watch him use the toilet in space. Which reminds me, and there's a link to, we'll have to put that in the show notes for you. Reminds me of one of my favorite links from the Big Bang Theory when Howard designed the space toilet and launched the meatloaf analog onto the ceiling of the apartment. So we've pretty much completely derailed the podcast tonight, what with the technical difficulties going down the tubes and everything else. I am hopeful that the bad cop will join us long enough to play his last soundbite from the event, and we can sign off in a reasonably normal, if normal is such a thing. Normal, by the way, is just a setting on the dryer. But I'm hopeful that the bad cop will join us in time to sign off this episode. I was just going over the upcoming things. I think the last time the bad cop was able to rejoin us, and I said that on June 25th, we'll be at the Mount Vernon Parks GeoCoin Challenge and interview with Dora Moore, quote unquote live. I don't think we're actually going to be there broadcasting live from that event, but that's on the June 25th episode. And interview with Dora Moore is going to be regarding the Metro Vancouver Summer Winter Games 2015, and I am going to try to attend those in person. Can't quite promise you that yet. I've got a lot of things on my plate personally, but we're going to go there. And I'm hearing little back squeaks, and I think he's back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Bad Cop.
You're doing a great job, but wow, this is not one of my favorites.
So I told them that they're going to want to hang on because there's one more soundbite coming about Jeremy Irish announcing the winner of the Flight Cache contest. So personally, I can't wait to hear it, and I'm hoping that with all of your technical difficulties here, you're able to bring that to us now that I've hyped it and pitched it. Tell me what you know.
Here we go.
I think it's worth pointing out that of the 4 finalists, 2 entries of 4 that were selected out of I don't know how many total were submitted, but they each had submitted, separately 2 of the final 4. So just phenomenal. So you guys are clearly rock stars too, guys. So, the winner is rule number 1: fly the plane. Bethel Grace and Acer Jack.
So there you have it, Bethel Grace and Acer Jack. Now,
very cool.
I was also privileged enough to be able to talk with them after the event, and I've got some more audio for you. Now, Richard Garriott said that out of the 4 finalists, 2 separate people submitted the same idea.
Wow.
Which, you think about that's really cool.
That's
so
cool.
let's talk with the winners. And
did Richard Garriott say no in any of that interview?
There was the word no, but I think it was in form of knowledge. But the no was
okay.
All
right.
Let's listen.
Let's get the interview while we still can.
So we were really excited when the Flight Design Challenge was set out, and my son's really interested in aviation, so we were just giddy with excitement. My son, Acer Jack, is an avid geocacher as well, and we drag him everywhere.
Or does he drag you?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both. I'm a big puzzler. He likes to hike and explore.
Nice.
And so we wanted to do a geocache that would involve a little bit of a puzzle. So there'll be a physical component that we wanted to make sure it was kid-friendly. So it's involving a paper airplane. And Jack tested my designs. And you had to fold quite a number of planes, didn't you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, if you fold it wrong, do you get numbers in the wrong order?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
And they don't fly very well.
Oh, well, that's the key, right? You got to have a good flying paper airplane.
Exactly. So once you'll have the coordinates, you'll be able to take a short walk, and then you'll find a sculpture that will have elements of aviation in it and elements of paper airplanes. And it'll be done in metal so that it can live outside in the rainy Seattle weather.
And if you really screw up, then you can crumple it into a little ball and throw it, and that might fly better than if the paper airplane that you folded wrong.
But is that going to give you the right coordinates?
No, but it'll make you feel better.
Okay.
If you're really angry. Sing.
So, yeah,
Nice.
we're looking forward to doing it.
Nice. Now, did I hear that you had more than one entry?
Yes, I had one entry with a paper airplane design,
Mm-hmm.
and then Jack had an entry where his was called Know Your Fleet, and he got together his favorite airplanes, and you had to identify them,
Maybe my favorite, but
ones that you liked.
one's my
And so you had to identify the airplanes to figure out the coordinates. And as it turns out, that was one of the other finalists, and so it was kind of fun to have two entries.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, congratulations on winning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's nice to speak with you.
Thank you. You know, there are people that are just naturally good at interviewing, and Methyl Grace and Acer Jack are two of those people.
I'm telling you, I think my tenure here as a podcast host is coming to an end. Acer Jack is going to move in and take over. He was awesome.
Wasn't he, though? He was completely at ease and
Yeah.
held by his answers. So, yeah, I thought it was. So, congratulations. The cache will be developed and released soon. We didn't have a date for that. So, there's a statue involved. I assume it's not, quick and easy. We can just make one up in our garage.
Yeah. Well, I think we're just about out of interviews and just about out of time and just about out of everything else except for technical difficulties tonight, right?
Man, I apologize to Methyl Grace and Acer Jack. I'm going to send them a copy of this link so that they can hear their interview. And the interview came fine. However, the rest of the podcast is not my normal technical standard that I strive for. So I apologize. I will edit down what I can and try to get some coherence back into the podcast. So, you may have a better chance downloading this episode and listening to it than watching it. So I apologize. Technical difficulties, I'm going to blame the Googles.
There you go.
The Hangout just kept dying on me. So.
Well, and we've had some good feedback in the Q&A from Three Hems and a Rose and Brylang and Wet Coaster and several others. And I know I didn't credit all of your questions to the right names because I was scrambling and trying to read them all. But I appreciate each and every one of you being there and each and every one of your comments. Especially, I'm particularly thankful and fond of the comments that congratulated my daughter on her college degrees. So thank you very much again. And I'm going to say that let's get this baby wrapped up and put to bed before the Googles kick you to the curb again, shall we?
Yes, exactly.
I've covered all of the upcoming events while you were out scrambling and repatching the switchboard.
Oh, good.
So I'll go on and say that for me, you can find me almost everywhere on the web as Wits End, at Twitter, at Facebook, at LO, at geocaching, and like I said, even at by phone at 347 Wits End. How about you?
That's amazing to me. You got your name in a phone number. Okay. With a few of the technical wizardries we've done lately, you can find me at CachingNW. That can be CachingNW.com. That can be at CachingNW on Twitter, Facebook.com/CachingNW, and of course, my favorite, the Google.com/plus CachingNW for Google+.
Very cool. Well, I've thanked everybody in the chat room, and I've thanked everybody that's watching, but I just want to thank anybody and everybody that's taking the time to listen to this episode that's endured this long, to listen to this episode of Caching the Northwest. You can be part of this show, and maybe you should be. Call us at 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment correction. Airline tickets to Europe. We got to go tour all those cool caches over there. I'll even take airline tickets to Texas. You can even leave us a question anytime, day or night. And, of course, you can email feedback@cachingnw.com. Your support helps to keep quality shows coming, not particularly like this episode, but like the other ones. And if you like this show, please click the PayPal button on the cachingnw.com website. We'll upgrade to Bad Cops Google connection. This show is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2015 by Chris Umfenauer. Thanks, everybody. 73.
And for what it's worth, we're clear of the recording.
Oh, good.
I apologize, everyone. I appreciate your patience with us tonight, and it was one of those things that it's on.
Yeah.
You know
I
what?
wonder if there was a full moon tonight.
Because he's not here to defend himself.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a full moon. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Solar flare,
Oh, let's blame that. We could blame almost anything we want, really, because
atmosphere ionization.
yeah.
Um,
Let's see.
I like that Benign Source says, can the bad cop contribute to the podcast tonight by Morse code?
Yeah, I mentioned while you were out scrambling that this very morning in our office we were discussing Morse code, and I wondered if he was there listening. No, it's not a full moon tonight. So it's very, very close to a new moon. The new moon was on Sunday. Yeah, I told him that we were talking about it and looking at ways to learn Morse code, so I was going to say that no, he can't contribute tonight, but perhaps in a future podcast episode.
Give me a little time.
Yeah.
Three Hams in a Row has a craving to start to play Ultima 4 on an Apple or Apple II, not even a 2 Plus.
Yeah.
So, Banana Source or Benign Sauce or whatever he goes by. It's an ongoing joke. He says, blame Obama.
Ah. Absolutely. Isn't that, or is that 3 M's in a row?
Well, Three Hams in a Row says, I always talk to myself when I'm looking for a cache in the woods.
Yeah, I rambled. First time you crashed out, I wasn't sure if I was still on the air or not, so they kindly said that, yes, we see you live. And I said that I was talking to myself here. So I was glad to know that somebody was actually out there seeing me talk to myself. It's now been documented for all of eternity.
Oh, I like it.
Because, once it's on the web, it's always on the web.
We see you live. I know he means it.
And it also was mentioned by Wet Coaster that this problem happened earlier with Geo Gearheads, and the common thread in all of it was the bad cop.
Hey. Yeah, probably was. I don't know if it's Chrome. I had no problem during Geo Gearheads. Our guest kept dropping out during Geo Gearheads. So, when I had problems launching the Hangout, of course, restart the machine. That eliminates a lot of issues.
Usually.
I ended up going to Internet Explorer.
Oh.
And, well, we seem to have a relatively stable connection.
For the moment, yeah.
So I think the Googles hate me.
You would think they'd hit me. I'm not even running Chrome. I'm running Firefox on Ubuntu. I'm not running Windows at all. But
yeah, look how stable you are.
Yeah, I don't want to comment on it because I may just crash as soon as I start commenting on it. But this machine has been pretty reliable for me overall.
It really has. Reliable enough, I consider doing an Ubuntu machine for my... then again, I gotta wonder, well, am I going to have the right drivers for, the USB soundboards and other things?
Driving is crazy and all that.
Yeah, record properly, and once you're committed, you got to go down that road.
I've often been told I should be committed.
And you should go down the road. Hey, I didn't get to say it on the podcast because, well,
yeah.
Most of it.
Because you weren't here most of the time.
Congratulations for you and your daughter.
Well, thank you. She did all the work. I paid all the bills, and it's a good teamwork thing that way.
Teamwork thing. Did you acknowledge that she graduated magna cum laude?
I don't know that I did.
Because
I was scrambling for things, but yes, 2 degrees. She sometimes would call home and say that she felt like things weren't going well, whatever, and we had to remind her that you're graduating with 2 degrees magna cum laude. That's a ton of work that a lot of your other classmates can't say that they did. A lot of her classmates never finished college, so yes, we're extremely proud of her. Sadly, she's home now with a sinus infection and curled up in bed, so I'm hoping she'll feel better soon. But
she's
I think it's yeah. I was gonna say I think I know in my experience, whenever I've had a huge project, a huge deadline, anything, that when it's over, I kind of stop and relax, and whatever illness has been lingering in the background kind of grabs hold of me and takes over. So it's probably the same thing with her. Three Hams in a Rose also suggests we might need a shot of whiskey to recover from this, and no, I'm out of whiskey.
Okay.
But appreciate the thought. There's a link in the Q&A to the Complete Idiot's Guide to Geocaching paperback book, and there's also a link to a YouTube video that I believe is referencing Lord British's explanation of how to use the toilet in space. So I said I would be interested in watching that as long as it didn't involve him actually using the toilet on the video.
Here you go. There's the link of how to use this toilet in space. No, that was here's the link to it.
Yeah.
That, wow. The only reference I know about the toilet in space is Big Bang Theory.
And I brought that up too. I covered a lot of ramblings while you were out and about.
You're good. See, we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Which I know is a good thing, because I really feel sorry for you.
Yeah. It was good. I feel sorry for the people that were watching, so we'll just feel sorry all the way around. We are a sorry lot. No, we're not. Let's plan not to do this next week. The podcast?
No, the errors.
The errors. Okay, good. Just to clarify.
But we're going to do a smooth, clean podcast.
Yeah.
You've never seen anything like this.
Okay.
Well, if this is your first time watching.
Well, and I'm going to have to sign off here for tonight. And I'm wondering if maybe we should just sign the whole darn thing off while everything is still working.
Yes, emotion spent.
So thanks everybody that watched and suffered through listening to me reel to myself. I appreciate you.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.